Take a breath and listen closely, because today's update is one of those stories that sounds simple in a headline and then turns into chaos the moment rumors start spreading. If you're a senior, a retiree, a veteran, someone living with a disability, or anyone relying on a fixed monthly payment, this matters to you. And if you're watching out for a parent or grandparent who depends on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, VA benefits, or a pension, keep this playing. The goal here is not to stir up panic. The goal is to clear the air. Right now, stress is spiking across the country because people are hearing the same claim repeated again and again. New stimulus payments are starting January 17th. Some posts make it sound like everyone is getting a new check. Some videos make it sound like the money is guaranteed for all seniors. Other headlines throw out big numbers without explaining where they come from. And that's exactly how confusion spreads: fast, loud, and misleading. And so let's do this the right way. Calmly. Step by step. In plain English. You're about to hear a news-style breakdown of what the January 17th date is tied to, what types of payments people are actually talking about in early 2026, which groups are often included in targeted relief efforts, why not everyone will see the same deposit on the same day, and what you should watch for in your bank account or mailbox. And before we get deeper, here's a quick reminder. If you appreciate clear, steady explanations like this, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next update. When stories like this evolve, the worst thing is getting blindsided by rumor after rumor. Staying informed is protection. Now here's the real reason this topic is blowing up. Costs have been climbing for a long time, and for many households on fixed income, it's reached a breaking point. Groceries cost more, housing costs more, utilities keep rising. Medical care, prescriptions, co-pays, and basic essentials feel like they're taking a bigger bite every single month. Even small things add up: transportation, phone bills, home maintenance, winter heating, and unexpected medical expenses that show up without warning. For seniors and retirees, that pressure hits differently because you can't always just work a little extra to catch up. When your monthly income is mostly fixed, inflation can feel like a slow squeeze that never lets up. That's why so many people are watching any relief discussion so closely, not out of greed, out of necessity. And when financial pressure rises, lawmakers and agencies face growing demands to respond, especially for seniors and people with disabilities. That's the backdrop. That's why targeted relief conversations keep popping up. Now, here is the first major clarification, and this is where most misinformation begins. When people say stimulus payments right now, they are usually not talking about the big nationwide pandemic-style checks from years ago. Those were broad programs, large scale, one size fits most. What's being discussed in early 2026 is different. It is more targeted. That means the relief may not always be labeled stimulus officially. It may show up as a one-time relief deposit, a special cost of living support payment, a state-level rebate, an emergency assistance supplement, or a federal add-on connected to existing benefits. In other words, money can still arrive as a direct payment or financial boost, but the structure is narrower and more specific. So if you've been searching for one single new stimulus law for everyone, you may not find that, because much of the current relief talk is about targeted programs, not universal payouts. Now let's get to the date people keep repeating: January 17th. What does it actually mean? Here is the accurate way to understand it. January 17th is being discussed because it lines up with the beginning of a new phase of scheduled processing and dispersal for certain relief programs that affect certain groups of eligible recipients. It is not a guarantee that every senior gets a deposit on that exact day. It is not a universal, across-the-board payment date for every person on Social Security. It is best understood as a starting point in a rolling schedule for defined groups. Some payments may begin appearing for eligible recipients around that window, and additional payments may continue over the days and weeks afterward. That's why you keep hearing starting January 17th, rather than everyone paid on January 17th. Unfortunately, online posts often erase that difference and turn it into a promise. And once that happens, people start budgeting around a rumor. That's when trouble begins. To really understand why people see different timing, you have to separate the different benefit groups, because Social Security retirement, SSI, SSDI, and VA benefits do not all run on the same timeline, and relief programs do not always attach in the same way. Let's start with Social Security retirement benefits. If you receive Social Security retirement, your regular monthly payment schedule does not suddenly change because of January 17th. Regular Social Security retirement payments continue to follow the established schedule, which is typically tied to your birth date. That monthly system is steady. However, some people may see an additional deposit or an adjustment that is separate from the normal payment. These extras, when they occur, can be connected to targeted cost of living relief efforts or state-administered programs that coordinate with federal systems. The important point is that these are not identical for everyone, and they do not always arrive on the same day as your regular Social Security deposit. In many cases, these extra deposits are processed in mid-January. That mid-month processing is a big reason January 17th keeps showing up in discussions. It often appears in timelines because it aligns with a new batch of dispersals or processing windows for specific programs. Now let's talk about SSI, Supplemental Security Income. SSI has its own rhythm, and January is always a sensitive month for SSI recipients. Normally, SSI is issued at the very beginning of the month, but when special adjustments, supplemental assistance, or emergency support programs are approved, those payments are often sent separately. They may not be bundled into your standard SSI deposit. This is why some SSI recipients may see extra support show up after the middle of the month. If a program is approved with a separate processing cycle, it can lead to an extra deposit appearing later than the first of the month SSI payment. That timing difference is normal for supplemental assistance, but it often sparks confusion because people expect everything to arrive together. Now, SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. SSDI benefits are commonly paid on a schedule similar to Social Security retirement benefits, often based on birth date. If you receive SSDI, your regular payment schedule stays consistent. But like retirement benefits, certain relief payments can be processed alongside your regular benefit or shortly after it, depending on eligibility criteria and the program's design. Here's the key point again. Eligibility is not automatic just because you receive SSDI. Relief is often targeted, which means it may depend on income levels, program requirements, and other qualifying rules. But when an SSDI recipient qualifies, the payment can be processed through existing systems, which often means no extra paperwork. Now let's talk about VA benefits. VA payments operate through a separate system from Social Security. That matters. But when relief programs are approved at federal or state levels, some coordination can occur, especially when relief is designed to support vulnerable groups like elderly veterans, disabled veterans, or surviving spouses. Because VA has its own structure, VA-related relief may not land on the same days as Social Security deposits. Some veterans may see changes or credits reflected during January, depending on their benefit category and state of residence. Again, this is one reason people can hear about the same January relief discussion and still experience different timing. So the bottom line so far is simple and very important. January 17th is not a universal payday. It is a marker tied to certain programs, certain groups, and rolling processing schedules. Now here comes one of the biggest questions seniors ask, and it's a smart question. Do you have to do anything? In many cases, if you already receive benefits through Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or the VA, and your information is up to date, the process is automatic. That means no special application, no sign-up form, no phone call required, and no fees. That's intentional. Agencies want to reduce stress, reduce paperwork, and reduce scam opportunities. But there is one practical detail that can cause delays even when someone is eligible: your deposit and contact information. If you changed banks recently, closed an account, switched from paper checks to direct deposit, changed your mailing address, or had any disruption in your payment setup, a delay can happen. That does not mean you are disqualified. It simply means the system needs accurate information to deliver funds smoothly. This is why keeping your payment information current is so important. And in periods when extra payments are discussed, it becomes even more important because supplemental deposits can be processed separately from your normal check. If your direct deposit details are outdated, the system may have trouble sending the extra deposit quickly. Now let's address a fear that many seniors quietly carry. If you receive extra money, will it count as income and reduce your monthly benefits? For Social Security retirement benefits, one-time relief payments generally do not count as earned income for Social Security purposes. That means they usually do not reduce your normal monthly Social Security check. For SSDI recipients, the same general idea often applies. One-time relief deposits typically do not get treated as earned wages that would reduce your base benefit because they are not wages. For SSI recipients, rules can be more complex because SSI is income-based and sensitive to changes. But many relief payments are structured to be excluded from SSI income calculations for a certain period. That exclusion window is designed to give recipients time to use the money for essentials without immediately losing benefits. The exact treatment can depend on the specific program, but the guiding concept is that relief should help, not punish. Now let's talk taxes. In general, stimulus-style relief payments have not been treated as taxable income at the federal level. That has been the pattern with past relief efforts, and current guidance often continues in the same direction. But here is practical advice you should never ignore. Keep records anyway. It is always smart to have documentation of any extra payment you receive. Bank statements, deposit labels, letters, or notices, especially if you file taxes or if someone helps you with tax prep. At this point, you might be thinking, okay, but what is actually confirmed and what is rumor? This is the heart of the issue. There is a difference between targeted payments connected to specific programs and a universal check promised to everyone. Not every headline you see online is describing the same thing. Some posts mash together state rebates, cost of living adjustments, standard benefit schedules, and unrelated proposals, then present it as one big guaranteed payout. That is not how this works. Payments beginning around January 17th are tied to specific programs and eligibility rules. They are not a universal check for every senior in every state. Knowing that protects you from unrealistic expectations and protects you from scams. Now let's go deeper into eligibility and what seniors should realistically expect. Eligibility is usually shaped by three main factors: the type of benefit you receive, your income level, and sometimes your household situation or location. For Social Security retirement recipients, targeted relief programs often focus on people below certain income thresholds. The reason is straightforward. The goal is to concentrate support on households that rely heavily on monthly benefits and have limited extra income. That is how targeted programs push relief toward the most financially vulnerable. SSI recipients are commonly prioritized because SSI is designed for people with very limited income and resources. If you receive SSI, you may be included in relief efforts more often than other groups. When extra support is approved, it may arrive as a separate deposit or a supplement after your regular SSI payment. The intent is to help with essentials: food, rent, utilities, transportation, and medical needs that cannot be delayed. SSDI recipients may qualify as well, especially those who have seen their purchasing power shrink due to rising costs. Disability income is fixed for many people, and that fixed income can feel tighter every year as prices rise. Relief payments, when applicable, may be processed through the same systems used for Social Security retirement benefits. That is why eligible recipients often do not need to submit a new application. Veterans are another group frequently included in targeted relief discussions, but eligibility can depend on the VA benefit type and whether the recipient also meets income-based criteria. Older veterans, disabled veterans, and surviving spouses may be included more often in relief efforts, but timing can vary because VA operates differently and because some relief involves state-level coordination. Now let's talk about amounts, because this is where disappointment can hit if expectations get inflated by sensational headlines. These payments are generally designed as temporary support. They are not meant to replace monthly income. They are not designed to solve long-term financial challenges by themselves. They are a relief measure, a boost to help people handle higher costs. The amount can vary widely depending on the program, income level, location, and eligibility tier. Some recipients may see a few $100s, others may see smaller supplemental deposits. Sometimes assistance comes in a form that does not look like a traditional check, such as a rebate credit or a state-administered deposit. Even smaller amounts can matter. For someone living on fixed income, a modest deposit can mean groceries for a week, a utility bill paid on time, a prescription refill filled without delay, or transportation costs covered for medical appointments. Another major reason timing can vary is that some relief is administered at the state level, even when federal systems are involved. This is crucial. If a program is state-administered, That can lead to differences between states, different amounts, different timelines, different processing speeds. That is why you might hear about payments starting on a certain date while deposits roll out gradually depending on administrative processing. So, what should you do during this period? First, monitor your bank account carefully, but do it with the right expectations. If you get direct deposit, look for deposits that may not match the exact label of your normal benefit payment. Relief payments may appear with a different description, which can confuse people. Some recipients see an unfamiliar deposit label and assume it is a mistake. Others assume it is a scam. In reality, a legitimate relief deposit can look different from your normal monthly Social Security or SSI description. If you receive paper checks, remember that mail can take longer, especially in winter months. Weather delays, transportation disruptions, and local mail volume can affect delivery speed. Second, and this part is extremely important, protect yourself from scams. Whenever people expect money, scammers show up. They know seniors are watching their accounts, they know people are worried, and they use that emotion to manipulate. Here is the rule that must stay locked in your mind. Legitimate agencies do not call, text, or email you asking for your Social Security number, your bank account number, your password, or money to release a payment. No legitimate relief payment requires you to pay a fee to receive it. No legitimate program needs you to confirm your information through a random link sent in a text message, and no legitimate agency will threaten you with immediate loss of benefits unless you act right now. If anyone claims they can speed up your payment, guarantee your eligibility, or unlock your deposit in exchange for information, that is a major red flag. The safest approach is to rely on official communications you are already used to receiving and official channels you trust. Third, keep simple records. Even if a relief payment is not taxable and does not count as earned income, documentation protects you. A bank statement, a note of the date, and the deposit label can help if you ever need to clarify what a payment was. This can be especially helpful for SSI recipients since SSI has income-based rules and sometimes requires verification in certain situations. Another common question is how extra money might affect other assistance programs, housing support, food assistance, medical aid, or other state services. Many one-time relief payments are excluded from income calculations for a certain period to prevent people from being penalized for receiving temporary help. That policy exists because relief is supposed to stabilize households, not trigger benefit cuts. However, rules can vary by program and by state. That is another reason keeping documentation is wise. Now let's talk about practical planning. If an extra payment arrives, what should you do with it? There is no single correct answer, but the most common priorities for seniors are the priorities that protect stability. Catching up on overdue bills, paying utilities, refilling prescriptions, scheduling medical needs that were delayed, fixing something essential at home, covering transportation costs, buying groceries, or building a small emergency cushion so the next surprise expense does not push you into a crisis. Even a modest deposit can reduce stress when it is used intentionally. As we move through January, additional information can become available and adjustments can be announced. That does not mean every rumor is true. It means things can evolve. The key is staying informed without getting overwhelmed. Be cautious with headlines that sound like guarantees. Be cautious with claims that throw out huge dollar amounts without explaining program details. Reliable information tends to be calm, specific, and consistent, not loud and sensational. Now let's bring everything together in the clearest way possible. The January 17th date is connected to a new phase of scheduled processing and dispersal for certain relief programs affecting certain eligible groups. It does not mean every senior, retiree, or beneficiary receives a universal payment on that exact day. Payments, when they apply, can begin around that window and roll out over the days and weeks afterward. If you receive Social Security retirement benefits, your regular payment schedule remains based on the normal monthly calendar, often tied to your birth date. Some eligible recipients may see separate deposits or adjustments connected to targeted relief efforts or state-administered programs coordinated with federal systems, often processed in mid-January. If you receive SSI, your regular payment usually arrives at the beginning of the month, but additional supplemental support, when approved, may appear separately and can begin showing up after the middle of the month depending on processing timelines. If you receive SSDI, your regular schedule remains consistent, and if you qualify under targeted relief criteria, additional deposits may be processed alongside or shortly after your normal benefit through existing systems. If you receive VA benefits, your payment system is separate, but coordination can occur for certain relief measures. Some veterans, especially those who are elderly, disabled, or in specific income-based categories, may see additional payments or credits reflected during January depending on program rules and state of residence. For many people, payments are automatic if you already receive benefits and your information is current. That means no separate application and no need to respond to phone calls or messages asking for personal data. The biggest practical step you can take is ensuring your direct deposit and contact information are accurate to avoid delays. Relief payments are often structured so they do not reduce Social Security benefits. For SSI recipients, special rules apply, but many relief payments are excluded from income calculations for a certain period. Most stimulus-style relief deposits have not been treated as taxable income at the federal level, but keeping records is still wise. And above all, protect yourself from scams, because scammers target seniors aggressively during moments like this. If anyone contacts you demanding personal information or money to release a payment, treat it as a red flag and do not engage. Here is something that does not get said enough. Anxiety is expensive. When people are scared, they make rushed decisions. They click links they should not click. They answer calls they should not answer. They share information they would never share on a calm day. That's why the strongest protection you have is clarity. So if you're worried about January 17th, approach it calmly. Do not assume a viral post is a guarantee. Do not plan your budget based on a rumor. Stay alert, watch your deposits with realistic expectations, and keep your information updated. If a relief payment applies to you, it will usually arrive automatically through the system you already use. And if it does not apply to you, you have not lost anything by staying calm and protected. If this explanation helped you feel more grounded, subscribe so you can stay updated without getting dragged through confusion. And if you know someone who is stressed, overwhelmed, or vulnerable to scams, share this information with them. One clear explanation can prevent a lot of harm. The most important takeaway is simple. Payments beginning around January 17th can be real for certain eligible recipients, but they are targeted, not universal. Knowing that helps you avoid disappointment, avoid scams, and avoid unnecessary stress. Keep an eye on your account. Keep your records. Stay cautious with calls and messages. Focus on verified information. That's how you protect your financial security, one steady step at a time. Thank you for listening, and take care of yourself as January continues.